Meanwhile, President Trump is firing back at former White House aide Omarosa Manigault Newman as Omarosa promotes her new book. The former apprentice contestant who worked for the Trump administration for nearly a year is now claiming she has secret recordings of West Wing conversations, including one with President Trump and another from inside the Situation Room. The president fired back in a series of tweets today, quote, "Wacky Omarosa, who got fired 3 times on The Apprentice, now got fired for the last time." He also claimed she begged him for a job and was not smart. The president also called her a lowlife and defended his attacks against her on Twitter. Joining me now is Reid Wilson. He's a national correspondent for The Hill. Hi, Reid. Thanks for being with us. So is the president's response to Omarosa what we would expect from him by now?
I think it's what we would expect from him. It's not what we would expect from any typical president. But then again, this is a president who's not a typical president by any means. The notion that a reality television star could wind up in the West Wing, and I'm not talking about the president, I'm talking about Omarosa here, could wind up in the West Wing to begin with is pretty fanciful. The fact that she has now been fired and is writing a book, I feel like is the most predictable part of this whole thing. And the fact that she has now riled up the president so much, it has to do with these tapes that she recorded, right, not just of conversations with the president, but also conversations with Chief of Staff John Kelly as he was firing her inside the Situation Room. Now, the Situation Room, for anybody who knows anything about the White House, they probably haven't been in it because it's one of the most secure rooms in all of Washington, D.C., maybe one of the most secure rooms in all the world. The fact that there was a tape recorder in there should be deeply concerning to anybody. Forget any of the sideshows around the president. The fact that there was a recording device in there, that's a problem.
Well, Reid, could Omarosa face any sort of disciplinary action over this?
It's not entirely clear to me. I don't think there are laws against bringing recording devices in, but it's certainly not practiced, and there are rules against it. There's sort of a difference between breaking a rule and breaking a law, right? Right,
absolutely. All right, now, Omarosa released the recording of Kelly firing her. This morning, there was another of President Trump later calling to say he didn't know she'd been fired. Let's listen to that.
Omarosa, what's going on? I just saw on the news that you're thinking about leaving. What happened?
General Kelly came to me and said that you guys wanted me to leave.
No, nobody even told me about it. Nobody.
Wow.
You know, they run a big operation, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
God damn it. I don't love you leaving at all.
So, Reid, while this raises questions about who knew what, does there appear to be anything actually that damaging for this White House?
Not yet, but then again, Omarosa has said that there is a tape that exists of President Trump using a racial slur. That tape has not come to light yet. This is, though, I will say, there were rumors about this tape during the campaign and even after the campaign. The Trump administration and his campaign team were very worried about it ever becoming public. It has not yet, so let's be very clear. This is a rumor, nothing more. But I think that's what the White House is concerned about. You know, this is a president who has been around television cameras and recording equipment for a very long time. Any little slip could come back to embarrass him, as we saw from the Billy Bush tape back just about a month before the presidential election. So who knows what's out there, but it's clear the White House is worried about something.
Absolutely. I'm just curious what you think all of this signifies, though, about how people feel about bringing tapes and recording the president. I mean, this seems to be going on quite a bit.
Yeah, and one of the things that Omarosa said was that it's something that you need to do in this White House because everybody has their own version of reality and everybody says things that aren't necessarily true. And I think we've seen evidence of that for quite a while. The difference between, say, the Obama administration or even the Bush administration is that people inside the Trump administration don't seem to trust each other. And that's going to be a big problem as they try to formulate policy, as they try to execute the president's agenda going forward. If people are worried about backbiting and backstabbing, you're not going to get the job done.
So do you think White House policy will be changed? I mean, do you think we'll see major changes due to this latest episode?
I don't know. I mean, the policy of not recording the President of the United States or his Chief of Staff in the Situation Room is probably pretty well set in stone.
Right.
The fact is, this is an employee who seems like she was following her own script.
All right. So lastly, there are 4 states holding primaries tomorrow: Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, and Wisconsin. What are you looking most closely at with these races?
I'm watching who the Democrats and Republicans nominate for governor in all of these different races. We've got situations in Minnesota where former Governor Tim Pawlenty, who's a pretty standard traditional Republican, is seeking another term after being out of office for a couple of terms. He's being challenged by somebody who's much closer to President Trump. On the other side, in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, Democrats are deciding between some pretty liberal candidates and some more centrist traditional Democrats who would run in the upper Midwest. They're likely to get that candidate in Wisconsin. Maybe the Minnesota race is a pretty toss-up sort of situation there. But the fact is, these governorships matter immensely going forward, not just for how policy is set in these states, but also for how districts are drawn when the decennial census comes around in 2020. So if Democrats are able to make some inroads, especially in those upper Midwestern states, they're going to have a much better time battling for control of the House in the next decade than they have this time.
Indeed. We'll all be watching these races extremely closely. Reid Wilson, thank you for your time today.
You got it.